Picture this. You walk into a room, maybe it's a party or like a networking event.
Right.
And it is completely full of stable, kind, emotionally available people. You end up going on a date with one of them.
Sounds pretty ideal.
You'd think so, right? I mean, they ask you questions, they actually listen to your answers, they call when they say they will.
Yeah. Basic human decency.
Exactly. And you come home, you flop on the couch, and you tell your friends, well, they were nice, but honestly, kind of boring. There was just no spark.
Oh man, the classic no spark line.
It's so common. But then, rewind. You're in that exact same room, and you lock eyes with someone who operates like a human power grid on the verge of a blackout.
Oh wow.
Surging with this intense, overwhelming energy 1 minute, and then going totally dark and unavailable the next.
Right.
And instead of stepping back, your brain interprets that dangerous electrical hum as chemistry. You think, wow, I finally met my match.
Which is wild.
It is. And then 6 months later, you are exhausted, sending frantic text messages at 2 a.m, wondering why this keeps happening to you.
It is an incredibly common phenomenon. And from a neurological standpoint, it is a fascinating evolutionary misfiring.
A misfiring.
Yeah, I mean, you find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly trying to manage someone else's unpredictable grid just so you can feel a brief moment of safety.
Right.
And people tend to internalize this as a personal failure. They look in the mirror feeling completely depleted and wonder why they can't simply choose a functional, predictable partner.
Well, today we are doing a deep dive into the mechanics of exactly why that happens.
It's such an important topic.
It really is. We are looking at this brilliant breakdown from the YouTube channel Forged. It's a video titled, The Psychology of a Person Who Dates Toxic People.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job with that one.
Our mission today is to decode the hidden machinery behind this choice. Like, why do so many smart, capable, genuinely kind-hearted people run away from safety and absolutely sprint toward the fire?
That's the big question.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the goal here is to understand a cold, hard psychological truth.
Right.
People who find themselves in these patterns aren't just victims of bad luck in love. Subconsciously, they're volunteers.
Yeah, and framing it as volunteering can be jarring, but it is a crucial starting point.
It feels a little harsh at first.
It does. But if you're listening to this and that frantic 2 a.m. walking on eggshells pattern sounds painfully familiar to you, understand that it's not because you lack intelligence or willpower.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. It is entirely biological and psychological. Your nervous system has been wired over a long period of time to interpret peace as a threat and chaos as baseline reality.
Wow. So before we even talk about emotional history or childhood trauma, we have to look at the raw biology of attraction, right?
Exactly. We need to start with the chemistry.
Because we need to understand the mechanism of why healthy love feels so quote-unquote boring to someone caught in this loop. Biologically speaking, a healthy relationship runs on oxytocin and serotonin. To me, that sounds like sitting in a really cozy living room with a slow-burning fire in the hearth.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it makes you feel safe enough to actually sleep, to work, to just exist.
And that stability is actually a metabolic conservation strategy.
Wait, what does that mean?
Well, oxytocin allows your nervous system to power down its threat detection systems. You don't have to be on high alert.
Oh, that makes sense.
But toxic love doesn't run on conservation. It runs on a potent, highly activating cocktail of dopamine and cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Exactly. It acts directly on the brain's reward center like a chemical stimulant.
So it's basically a drug.
Pretty much. When you date someone who is highly inconsistent, say, someone who bombards you with love-bombing emojis and instant replies on Monday, but then leaves you on read for 6 agonizing hours on Tuesday, your brain activates the HPA axis.
The HPA axis.
Yeah, that's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's your body's central stress response system.
Okay, got it.
It floods your bloodstream with cortisol. So you are scanning for danger, agonizing over what you did wrong.
You're basically living with an internal fire alarm going off.
Yes.
And somehow, culturally, we've confused the adrenaline of a fire alarm with passion.
What's fascinating here is the mechanism of relief.
Oh, right, when they finally text back.
Exactly. When that unpredictable partner finally texts back, when they apologize and offer you just a tiny crumb of affection, the HPA axis deactivates.
And then what happens?
Your brain releases a massive flooding rush of dopamine. That relief feels absolutely euphoric.
Wow.
And it only feels that intensely good because the agonizing cortisol spike that preceded it artificially lowered your baseline.
So the low makes the high feel way higher.
Precisely. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It is the exact same psychological principle that makes slot machines so highly addictive.
The slot machine effect.
Right. You pull the lever, you usually lose, but occasionally, unpredictably, you hit the jackpot.
Wait, I want to push back on this for a second. I get the slot machine analogy, but losing at a casino just makes me mad, or at worst, compulsive. It doesn't make me fall in love with the machine.
That's a fair point.
So how does the brain mistake the relief of winning a rigged game for actual romantic attachment?
That is the critical distinction, and it comes down to dopamine receptor downregulation.
Downregulation?
Yeah. When you are exposed to these massive spikes and crashes of cortisol and dopamine over time, your brain actually reduces the number of active dopamine receptors.
Oh, so it builds up a tolerance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A calm, normal interaction no longer registers as pleasurable. It registers as nothing.
So you physically need the chaos.
You physically need a massive crisis, followed by a resolution, just to feel a baseline level of okay.
That is terrifying.
And because this chemical roller coaster is happening in the context of interpersonal attachment, your brain maps that intense biological dependency onto the person causing it.
Oh, wow.
The relief becomes biologically indistinguishable from love.
So when you meet a consistent, healthy person, there is no threat. The HPA axis doesn't fire. There is no cortisol spike.
Right.
And without the cortisol spike, there is no massive dopamine rush of relief.
You got it.
Because your nervous system learned to swim in a hurricane, you look at that calm water and falsely conclude, oh, there's no chemistry here.
Exactly. You think it's boring.
But if the brain is just addicted to this cortisol slot machine, why do we sit down at that specific machine in the first place?
To answer that, we have to look at how childhood wires the subconscious.
Okay, let's get into it.
The conscious mind wants safety, but the subconscious mind operates on a completely different set of rules. Sigmund Freud called this the repetition compulsion.
Repetition compulsion.
Yeah. This is the fundamental human drive to repeat our past traumas in an unconscious attempt to finally master them.
Because the subconscious is timeless, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't know if you're 30, 40, or 50 years old. It is still frantically trying to solve the problems of the 5-year-old you.
That's beautifully put. If you grew up in a home where love was conditional, or where a parent was critical, distant, volatile, or dealing with addiction, you were handed a very specific blueprint.
Right.
You learned that love requires earning it through self-abandonment.
Wow, self-abandonment.
Yeah. So as an adult, when you meet a healthy person who offers unearned love, it feels like a foreign language.
It just doesn't compute.
Right. Your subconscious rejects it. It assesses the situation and says, this is too easy. I don't trust it. What is the hidden cost?
Because there was always a cost.
Exactly. To a trauma survivor, unearned love feels dangerously like a trap.
But when you meet a toxic person, someone who treats you with that same volatile energy as your difficult parent, your subconscious totally lights up.
It recognizes the pattern.
It says, oh, I know the rules of this game. I've been training for this my whole life.
Yes. This is the core of the volunteer aspect we talked about.
All right, why you choose it.
You subconsciously choose the toxic partner because you want to win the unwinnable game this time.
You want a do-over.
You are trying to take the face of the parent who rejected you, paste it onto this new romantic partner, and finally extract the love you were denied.
Oh, man.
You think, if I can just make them stay, if I can just fix them, then I will finally be enough.
That is heartbreaking.
It is. You are desperately trying to rewrite the tragic ending of your childhood with a person who is fundamentally incapable of giving you that ending.
The source material uses a brilliant quote to summarize this futility.
Oh, I love this quote.
It says, you are going to the hardware store looking for milk, and you are surprised every time they don't have it.
It's so perfect.
That is such a gut punch of a realization. You're wandering the aisles of Home Depot getting angry that there's no dairy section.
Exactly.
So how does this blueprint manifest in actual dating behavior?
The sources break this down into 3 specific archetypes.
Right. The archetypes people adopt when they date toxic partners. Let's start with the first one, the fixer.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this, you might think you're immune because you've never dated a stereotypical bad boy or rebel.
Right. It's not always obvious.
But look closely at this archetype. Have you ever treated a partner's potential as a renovation project?
Ouch.
Yeah. The fixer is driven by the fantasy of potential. It's like you're hiring yourself as an unpaid life coach for your partner just so you don't have to look at your own life.
That's a great way to describe it. The fixer isn't actually dating the person sitting across from them at dinner.
Who are they dating?
They're dating a holographic projection of who that person could be if they went to therapy, stopped drinking, and dealt with their trauma.
A fantasy.
Exactly. Very often, the fixer grew up as a parentified child.
Like taking care of their parents.
Yes. They were the ones managing their parents' emotions, acting as the family peacemaker. They learned early on that their only value comes from utility.
So if they aren't fixing something, they aren't valuable.
Right. If they aren't managing a crisis, they feel invisible. By focusing all their energy on fixing a broken partner, they successfully outsource their own internal chaos.
It's a distraction.
It is a highly effective distraction from their own unhealed pain.
So the fixer is trying to control the chaos by managing it as a project. But what happens to the nervous system of someone who realizes they can't manage the chaos, so they just try to disappear inside it?
Ah, that's the second archetype.
Is that where the echoist comes in?
That is the exact mechanism of the echoist. This archetype develops when a child grows up with a highly narcissistic parent who takes up all the oxygen in the room.
So there's no room for the child.
Right. In that environment, a child's neurodevelopment regarding their own needs is actively suppressed.
Because having needs is dangerous.
Exactly. If they cried, they were punished. If they had a need, it was an inconvenience that triggered parental rage.
Oh, that's awful.
So the child's nervous system adapts by making itself incredibly small to allow the parent to be big. They learn to echo the needs of others just to survive.
And as an adult, a healthy relationship requires you to actually take up space.
It does.
It requires you to say, I want this and I need this. But for the echoist, stating a need triggers that old childhood terror.
Yes. So they naturally gravitate toward toxic tyrants because the tyrant actively forbids them from having needs.
Wow, so it actually feels safer.
By dating someone who demands all the attention and dictates all the terms, the echoist is saved from the sheer panic of having to figure out and express what they actually want.
I don't have to do the work.
Right. The toxic partner is essentially doing the psychological heavy lifting of keeping the echoist invisible, which perversely feels safe.
That is wild. And then there's the third archetype, which the sources call shadow projection.
This one is fascinating.
It's kind of the hidden, darker reason. This is the classic good girl or nice guy.
Right.
You pay your taxes, you never cause a scene, you follow all the rules.
The perfect citizen.
Yeah, but deep down, you have this repressed, wild, angry side, your shadow, that you aren't allowed to express because your conditioning to be the responsible one is just too strong.
It's buried deep.
So you outsource your rebellion. You date the narcissist who breaks all the rules and speaks without a filter.
Because you can't do it yourself?
Exactly. You get to vicariously act out the monster you are too afraid to be yourself while still maintaining this illusion of moral superiority.
Right. You get to keep your hands clean.
You get to say, I would never act like that, while choosing to stand as close to the fire as possible.
It's such a complex dynamic.
Yeah.
And all three of these archetypes, the fixer, the echoist, and the shadow projector, they operate on the exact same underlying mechanism.
Which is what?
The extreme behavior of the toxic partner serves as a functional shield.
A shield from what?
From themselves. The relationship's daily chaos provides a necessary barrier against facing internal fears, repressed needs, or unhealed trauma.
That makes so much sense. But once someone is acting out these archetypes, actively sitting at that cortisol slot machine, why is it so incredibly hard to walk away?
It's incredibly difficult.
Because friends of people in these situations are always screaming, just leave, they treat you terribly. But it's not a matter of logic, is it?
Logic has almost nothing to do with it at that stage. We're dealing with biological anchors, specifically trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding, we hear that term a lot.
We do, but it's often misunderstood. A trauma bond is a highly specific biological attachment built on a relentless cycle of abuse, rescue, and gratitude.
Abuse, rescue, gratitude.
Exactly. First, the toxic partner acts out. They criticize you, scream at you, or threaten the relationship.
All right.
This triggers an intense survival response. The amygdala, which is the brain's fear center, just takes over.
Pure panic.
Yes. Yeah. When this happens, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic, reasoning, and listening to your friend's good advice, physically shuts down to divert energy to survival.
So you literally can't think straight.
You can't. You enter a state of freeze or fawn.
But then comes the rescue phase, right? They offer you a crumb of kindness.
Lord, I'm cute.
They apologize, they hug you, they say they're just damned.
And because they are simultaneously the source of your intense biological terror and the sole provider of the relief from that terror, your brain bonds to them with frightening intensity.
That sounds like Stockholm Syndrome.
It is the exact mechanism of Stockholm Syndrome. You become biologically grateful to them for stopping the pain that they themselves caused.
Wow.
You cannot logic your way out of a survival response. It physically feels like you cannot breathe without them because they have hijacked your basic survival circuitry.
Here's where it gets really interesting and tragic, really.
Yeah.
The person trapped in this cycle looks at how much it hurts, how hard it is to breathe without this partner, and they confuse the intensity of the pain as proof of the depth of their love.
It's a tragic misinterpretation.
They think if it hurts this much, it must be soulmate level real.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it leads us to another massive biological trap.
What's that?
The terror of safety.
The terror of safety.
Yeah. If you grew up in a chaotic environment, calm wasn't actually calm. Calm was just the eye of the hurricane.
It was the calm before the storm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was the tense, terrifying moment right before the yelling started. Because of that conditioning, your nervous system views peace as highly suspicious. It signals impending doom.
So when you are finally in a safe relationship on a quiet Tuesday night, just holding hands on the couch, your skin starts to crawl.
Right, your brain is screaming that something is wrong.
You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. The sources point out that people will actively pick fights or sabotage the peace just to break the tension.
They need the release.
The anxiety of waiting for the explosion is actually worse than the pain of just causing it yourself.
The devil you know is always better than the devil you don't.
Totally.
These individuals have a PhD in crisis management. They know exactly how to survive a screaming match or a dramatic breakup.
But true intimacy.
Exactly. A quiet evening where someone just genuinely cares about your day without an ulterior motive. That is terrifyingly unfamiliar territory.
But playing this game, living in this state of constant hyperarousal, it isn't free.
Not at all.
What is the actual toll on the body and the mind over time?
The cost is astronomical. The body keeps the score.
Meaning the physical body.
Yes. Living with chronic cortisol flooding, your system leads to systemic inflammation, autoimmune issues, severe exhaustion, and premature aging.
It's literally destroying your body.
Your immune system is constantly compromised by the stress. But honestly, the most devastating cost is psychological.
What does it do to your mind?
It entirely erodes your self-trust. Every single time you stay with someone who mistreats you, you are wiring a message into your own brain that says, I am not worth protecting.
Wow, you are actively abandoning yourself.
Exactly.
So how do we fix it? The sources lay out a specific cure, and they say you literally have to treat it like a drug detox.
You really do.
When you decide to stop dating toxic people, the withdrawal is going to physically and emotionally hurt.
It's going to be brutal at first.
Your downregulated dopamine receptors need time to heal, meaning the world is going to feel like the color has been drained out of it for a while.
Everything will feel flat.
Yeah. You have to actively reframe what your brain perceives as boredom. You have to learn to sit in a quiet room without setting the curtains on fire just to feel the heat.
That's the hardest part.
You have to do the inner child work, telling that 5-year-old inside you that they no longer have to dance for their dinner to earn love.
Right.
And you have to look at reality, not potential. Ask yourself, if this person never changed a single thing about themselves, would I stay?
And if the answer is no?
You have to leave. But I have a clarifying question for Noah.
Okay, go for it.
You do the work, you detox, and then you finally meet a nice, consistent, healthy person.
Right.
Right on cue, your brain starts screaming that there's no spark. What exactly are you supposed to do in that exact moment?
The guidance from the source material is clear and highly counterintuitive.
What is it?
Do not run away.
Just stay.
You have to intentionally lean into the discomfort of safety. You have to stay and give your nervous system the necessary time to recalibrate.
That sounds really hard.
It will feel strange at first. It'll feel entirely too quiet.
Yeah.
But eventually, as your HPA axis settles and your dopamine receptors normalize, you will have this profound realization
What's that?
that the spark you spent your whole life chasing wasn't chemistry at all. It was a warning flare.
Wow. A warning flare. We have covered incredible ground today.
We really have.
From understanding how toxic partners act like a cortisol-driven slot machine to unpacking Freud's concept of returning to the hardware store looking for milk.
Such a great analogy.
We've seen how the fixer, the egoist, and the shadow projector use these relationships to shield themselves from their own needs, and we've learned the mechanics of trauma bonding. Most importantly, we've learned that pain is not a measure of love. A relationship should never be a rehabilitation center, and it should never be a battlefield.
It should be a sanctuary.
Exactly. True love isn't a roller coaster that makes you scream. It's a slow, steady climb to solid ground. So, what does this all mean? How do we take this massive paradigm shift and apply it?
This raises an important question, and I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Okay.
Building on that concept of shadow projection and the terror of safety we discussed.
Right.
If you are someone who has spent your whole life outsourcing your rebellion to wild, toxic partners because you always had to be the good, responsible one.
Yeah, what about them?
What if the ultimate, most rebellious thing you could possibly do right now isn't chasing the fire?
Oh, wow.
What if the truest act of rebellion is daring to sit in the quiet, completely undefended, and letting yourself be unconditionally loved by someone who is entirely stable?
That is powerful.
Imagine walking into that room full of people we talked about at the very beginning, locking eyes with someone kind, and finally realizing that peace doesn't mean boring. It means you're finally home.